What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Azura Media Club, home of the Bad Girl Coven. Today we're talking Toy Story. I'm your Coven leader, Emily. Today we're talking Toy Story, the first one, from 95 there. Definitely one of my favorite movies and like one of my most nostalgic sort of movies from back in the day. I used to watch this movie so much. Like literally all the time. That, The Lion King, and like the sequel whenever I got my hands on that. I can still remember getting my hands on that too. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think I saw this one in theaters, but I know I definitely saw the sequel in theaters with my mom, I believe. Um, and I'm a big fan of Pixar in general, mostly because of these movies and like everything that they did in the early days, I remember Incredibles was a big one that I used to watch a lot as a kid. Um, at that point I was less of a kid and more of a like preteen or something, but like let me think, how old would I have been in 2004? 12. So yeah, there you go. That works. Um, Yeah, but that was a big one. I kind of skipped over the other ones. The other ones I would just see like at friends' house and like at daycare and stuff. But like this one specifically and the second one, and I remember going to see A Bug's Life in theaters as well. That was a decent one back then, but I really think that one's kind of underrated now. But we'll talk about that next time. But anyway, I want to talk about all the Pixar movies because they all have something kind of unique about them. Some of them are worse than others. Cars 2, A Good Dinosaur. Those are probably some of the lower tier ones. But most of them besides that are actually like really good. So I have my childhood Woody and Buzz toys from when I was a kid. Um, they're still here. They don't work except for they work in my heart. So, um, but yeah, I used to play with them all the time. I mean, I loved them. I would carry them around. I was just like Andy, like in that way. Um, I remember me and my friend John Black and uh, Blaze, who he used to always call Buzz, I guess, or calls Buzz now because he forgot his name or whatever. Used to really love Toy Story. I think it was more so a me and John Black thing, but we were always super into it. And yeah, so it's something that means a lot to me. Toy Story does, and the movie is just great in its own right. I mean, there's so many great scenes in the movie. And it's such an impactful movie. Like historically, it's like the first CG animated movie. Um, in terms of like video games, I remember they were saying like D was like the first fully CG like video game, but then like Toy Story was like the first fully animated like feature length movie of this. So like yeah. Um so it's just a great movie. It's always super fun to just go back and watch, and especially at the beginning of rewatching through the movies. Um I want to call it the trilogy because that's what it is in my heart, is a trilogy. But they just want to keep milking these movies to put out more and more. I mean, five's coming out eventually now, and they already made four, which was totally unnecessary. But I mean, let's not dwell on that. Let's talk about the good, right? I mean, at the time, especially, this was a very impressive movie, and I think it still holds up really well. If you've like only seen like, I mean, these days, I mean, it's not really a thing, but if you've only seen like the VHS and DVD copy, you need to go back and watch the Blu-ray, because the Blu-ray actually like it's cool. The early Blu-rays for so like this and A Bug's Life, I guess I would say, for Pixar, like if you go back and watch them, they look really fucking good. Like Bug's Life looks like a different movie every time you take it from like fucking VHS to DVD to Blu-ray. Like it looks almost completely different. Like this one, specifically just looks better, and it looks like it did, but it just looks cleaner and even greater. And I know people give this one shit. Oh, the humans don't look that great and all this stuff. It's like, who cares, dude? It's stylized. It looks great, and I don't care what anybody says. It still looks great, even, you know, for its time. I mean, hell, the fucking movie looks more realistic than the toys. The toys look great, obviously, but it's just like, um, you know, it's crazy. You just lose yourself in the world. It doesn't matter if it looks real or not. It's about the style that they went for and how impressive that was, you know? And, you know, yeah, visually is it a really cool movie? That's great and everything. But, you know, Toy Story and the sequels are all about the heart, you know? And we get a lot of that in this movie. I feel like a lot of that kind of gets, you know, they build up to it the entire movie. The ending is really where you get a lot of your heart in this one. You know, Buzz and Woody kind of realizing, you know, that they have to rely on each other to get out of there. Buzz realizing that, you know, he's actually a really cool toy. Despite the fact that he's not a space ranger, he gets to be a cool toy, and that's great in its own right. And he kind of realizes his place in things, and I think that's great. And then Woody realizes, of course, that, you know, he needs to stop trying to be the leader necessarily. I mean, he still kind of retains that role in a lot of ways in the future movies, but he needs to stop worrying so much. I think that's what everyone learns. You know, they're all at the beginning of the movie, they're all worried that they're gonna get replaced by some other toy or whatever. And then if you notice at the end of the movie, Rex, who at the beginning of the movie was like, oh, please don't let it be another dinosaur. He's like, please let it be another dinosaur, maybe a leaf eater, right? Like, so that's great. Side note, all the voice talent in this movie is fantastic. You know, you got Tom Hanks, Tim Allen. They're the iconic in their roles. And then, of course, you got, like, some of the side characters, like Bo Peep and Rex, are actually, you know, voices that you're still hearing now in shows like Young Sheldon. They play characters in that show, you know, like William Shawn and Annie Potts there. You know, she does, like, Ghostbusters and stuff still. You know, and she's got other roles and stuff. But point being that these people are still around and they're still doing stuff. It's crazy, you know? I mean, 30 years later, it'll be 29 years this year, right? So, like, next year will be 30 years. Isn't that crazy? Like, man, this is crazy. Anyway. But yeah, so Buzz and Woody and their connection, I think, is a good chunk of the movie that really brings the core and the emotion to it. I think there's a lot of good suspense, especially in, like, the Sid parts and, like, when they get lost at the, you know, the gas station and stuff, and how are they going to get back to Andy, and it's all about that journey too, you know. And of course, I like that we get a lot of scenes early on of Andy's house and how well treated the toys are there. To an extent, obviously, when Mr. Potato Head is there with Molly, like, she's, like, disassembling him and, like, drooling all over him and stuff. But even that's better than, like, Sid, who tortures his toys, right? So I feel like that's why by the time they get to the Sid's house, I mean, it's been built up as this, like, he's the villain, you know, there's this monstrous kid over there next door that, like, kills toys and stuff. By the time they get over there to his house, you really see the contrast of, between how well Andy treats his toys and Sid, how well he doesn't treat his toys. But most kids are more like Sid, where they just kind of, you know, throw their toys around and then they just, whoa, you know, doesn't really matter to them. They're just toys. But, you know, if you know that they're alive, then, I mean, it's a whole different story, right? That's what kind of Sid learns by the end of the movie. Hopefully some humility for treating people well as well. Maybe he treats his little sister better after this. We don't know. We don't really see much of Sid. he's cameos in number 3 as a very like minor, like that garbage man thing who everyone likes to believe is Sid. You know, I like to believe he's Sid too, and he's kind of learned some things and with the toys and all that. Um, yeah. So, you know, he's just a kid, but like he is kind of a mean, like a asshole, like bully kid in a sense. Uh, but his living conditions, I guess, are lesser, is what everyone was saying. Like, they're maybe not in the best neighborhood, and that's kind of why they're trying to move out of there. Also, like, Andy's dad probably just died, and then, like, you know, or a divorce would be a reason why they're in, like, a smaller, or, like, not a smaller house, but, like, just a house. People were saying it's, like, the grandparents' house or something from the dad. There's, like, a whole theory about how Andy's dad, like, had polio and stuff, and then, like, he died of that or something, and, like, Woody's, like, this rare, you know, one-of-a-kind prototype of Woody or whatever. You know, there's a whole theory. It's not a theory, really, even. A guy who, like, worked on it and heard, like, a beta of the story was told this information. So, it's less so a theory and more so, like, uncanonized fact, if you want to go with it like that way. Because there's all this mystery about Woody and, like, you know, his dad and, like Andy's dad. You see, like, a kid with, like, glasses that kind of looks like Andy in the pictures, and everyone's kind of theorized that that's, you know, Andy Sr., like, his dad, Andy's dad, you know, so, yeah, so the whole thing is, it's like, it's Andy's birthday, and he gets this Buzz Lightyear toy, and Woody's jealous of this Buzz Lightyear toy. In the original pitch, they kind of made him, like, even more of a villain, and a lot of that kind of shows through here, but I think this is done better, because he does do some unlikable things, but he also grows by the end, and they probably were going to have that in the original version too, but he wasn't, like, really, really mean in this version, you know. He just has his moments of that, you know. So the whole movie is kind of about Woody and Buzz's friendship, like, building, you know. At first they kind of start off butting heads, you know. Buzz thinks he's a real space ranger, so Woody's, like, trying to, you know, show him up, because I guess as, like, a position of power, like, just trying to get it through his head, too, Buzz's head, because he's so annoyed by this whole space ranger thing, and eventually he does get through to him. I mean, he only kind of gets through to him. What really gets him is, like, he sees himself on a commercial, Buzz does, at Sid's house there. And then he, of course, tries to fly out the window and breaks his arm off and stuff, and so then he realizes then. Then he has kind of like a psychotic break, you know, the whole Mrs. Nesbit thing, and really for the most of the rest of Sid's house, he just is kind of dejected, and, you know, he's kind of depressed, and he doesn't really think he has a purpose, because he's like, what is it, you know, what is my purpose? I'm just some toy. I'm just an insignificant toy. And then the Woody has to tell him, no, being a toy is fucking great, you know? There's a kid over there in the other house, Andy, who loves you, and he wants you. You're the coolest toy, and you're everything to him, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, all this while they're over there at Sid's house and stuff, and everyone kind of thinks that he, like, threw Buzz out the window, so they all kind of turned on him, the other toys. But Andy is, like, looking for them, like, you know, feverishly. He wants to find them, because they're his two favorite toys. And, you know, it really, like, has shown that Woody, like, kind of gets sidelined a lot at the beginning of the movie. But by the middle to the end of the movie, you realize that Andy does love Woody. He was just kind of caught up in the excitement of getting this new toy. It doesn't mean that he doesn't love Woody. I feel like that's kind of maybe where they should have gone with Toy Story 4. Because they did a really stupid storyline with that, where Bonnie just, like, doesn't like Woody anymore, even though she, like, loved Woody in the last one, and was told by Andy how significant Woody is. Like, if she had gotten a new toy and maybe wasn't just as interested in Woody, but she still, you know, loved him from time to time. Like, that would have been... Then he realized he has to move on. Okay, better. You know, you fixed your plot hole there, but, like, no, it's a big plot hole in my case. But we'll talk about that when we get to Toy Story 4 and 3 and stuff, but... Point being, this movie is more well-made than that, you know? It's not beat for beat as good as maybe the other movies, but I think it has a strong sort of resonance regardless, you know? You have to give it some credit for being the first one as well. You know, the two movies afterwards are only so impactful because there are movies building up and have so much emotion built up through those two journeys after this, you know? So, like, the third movie would have two journeys prior to it that make us so invested in the characters and stuff. So... But this one had to, like, establish this. It had to establish Pixar, you know? It had to, like, really make them a thing. And they did a great job doing that. So, like, the building up with the friendship and stuff until they, like, kind of try to help each other out and finally start to realize their place in things. When Buzz is strapped to the rocket there at the end. When they're escaping Sid's house, that's a great scene. All of that ending part, I think, is great. I mean... It's kind of a Back to the Future situation, or, what did we just see? Like, I don't know, like, a lot of these big movies, they have, like, these moments. Like, in Back to the Future, it's that scene at the end, where they're in the main town, and he's trying to, like, race towards the thing to get the lightning, to do the thing with the clock tower, and Doc has to, like, reattach that, and it's all about timing and stuff, and, like, all of that is, like, super iconic and impactful. For this movie, it's about the chase scene with the moving van and all of that. After a great scene in itself, great few scenes, when they've, you know, like, gotten to escape Sid's house, and they're out there, like, on the yard, right when he's about to, like, light the thing to send Buzz off into the sky and blow him up or whatever. They set up this great scene where they, like, break the rules, which, like, there's rules, like, what does that mean? Like, you know, and they, like, start talking to him and telling him how fucked up he's being to these toys because they're alive and shit, and that freaks him the fuck out. Anyway, right after that starts, like, one of the greatest sequences, and there's all this, like, misunderstanding there. Like, first of all, he goes to the car, Woody does, but Buzz is, like, struggling on the fence because he's got the rocket strapped to his back. Woody is on the car. He is ready to just jump in that window. He would never have to see Buzz again. And before, when it was the car at the gas station, he was doing this out of, like, self-preservation or whatever. Now, it's really about, we're friends. I have to go back and save Buzz. Buzz is like, just go ahead. I'll catch up. He doesn't do that. He goes back and saves Buzz. I think that's a big moment for Woody. You know, it kind of shows how far he's come. Yeah, I didn't really talk about the gas station thing, but, you know, the iconic, you are a toy, and he has to, like, really beat it into his head about this and stuff. There's so many great scenes earlier on, too. A lot of jokes in this movie. The humor is very good. Like, the first, like, 10 minutes is just, like, pun after pun after pun. It's like, it's crazy. Of course, the iconic opening scene where it's like the playtime with the, you know, one-eyed Bart and, like, Sheriff Woody and stuff. Like, that's an iconic scene. I like how they pay homage to that in Toy Story 3 there. Anyway, so you're at the end. He helps Buzz out, but now the moving van is going off there, and they start getting chased by the dog, Scud, right, from Sid's house or whatever. I forgot about the iconic Pizza Planet scene. The claw, you know, with the, like, when they're in the claw machine and all that. Anyway, so, and then at this point, Buzz is ahead, and he's on the moving van, and Woody's trying to catch up. And so, he finally does, but then the dog, like, gets him, or, like, Woody, my point of this was Buzz is ahead, and Woody's just like, go ahead, I'll catch up, kind of like before, but, you know, Buzz does everything in his power to save Woody. So, you know, they're finally there together as a good friendship and whatnot. And eventually, how does that all work out? So, right, so Buzz gets pulled away somehow, and then, because Woody he goes in the moving van there to get RC so that he can, like, go back to get Buzz, and they're all, like, freaking out. They're like, what's Woody doing here? Oh, that evil bastard, you know, like, so he goes and gets that, and he, like, drives it back, and they're all trying to, like, beat on him while he's, like, trying to drive the thing back so he can get Buzz to get him back to the moving van there. So it's like all this tension in this scene. It's all very well orchestrated too, and well shot and whatnot. And then finally, he gets him back there, and then he's on the RC thing, but then he gets thrown off, and like Buzz like catches up with him, and they're on there, and they're headed towards the truck, and then they all realize, oh shit, like that is really Woody and Buzz. Buzz is there. Woody was telling the truth. And, you know, so they're, like, chasing up with the truck, and they try to help him, like, Slinky goes off, and he, like, stretches all the way out. It's crazy. But then, like, RC's battery is running out, so you're like, ah, shit, like, they fall behind, basically, you know, and then they realize they've got the rocket, and, like, he's got a match in there in his little holster, you know, his holster that doesn't have a gun. Like, you know, there's a whole thing about that. Anyway, so he, like, lights the match, but, like, a car comes by and it unlights it. Earlier on in the movie, he got his head, like burned with a magnifying glass, so he understands to do this when he sees Buzz's, like, helmet, like, emitting down, like, a little beam from the sun or whatever. So then he uses that to light the thing, and he's like, oh my god, we lit a rocket. Rockets explode. And then, so, like, they go flying up forward. And, you know, he's like, they, like, throw RC into the truck, and they're, like, up in the sky. And he's like, this is the part where we blow up. And he's like, not today, Woody, or not today, Sheriff, or whatever. He hits his little thing, boom, his wings fly out, and then, like, the rocket, like, goes up, and you hear it, the music, and it's like, you know, it's like, oh my god, fuck yeah. You know, it's just, like, this great moment. And he's, you know, you see him falling, and it's like, the music's like, oh, and it's like, oh my god, and then it's like, he, like, starts flying, because there's a scene earlier where he's like, I can fly, and he just did all this stuff, and he's like, when he's like, that wasn't flying, that was falling with style, and so, when he's like, look, you're flying, you're actually doing it, and he's like, this isn't flying, this is falling, with style, and it's this really powerful sort of moment, you know, the music is so triumphant, it's just great, it's fantastic, it's one of the best, like, ending sequences there, like, ever, it's so great. And, you know, this whole time, like I said, Woody and Buzz are being missed by Andy, he's trying to find them, and then, so, Buzz is, like, flying, and he's like, oh my, Woody's like, you're gonna miss the moving van, he's like, we're not aiming for the van, then he, like, they like, fly down in the sunroof or whatever of the car, and they land in the box there, and Andy's just like freaking out. He's like, oh my god, it's Woody and Buzz, they're right here, we're you know, like, you said I left them or whatever. That's what the mom was saying, like, so he's just so happy to see him again, and that's what it's all about, right? And then there's an ending scene where it's like Christmas time and he gets a puppy and stuff. Anyway, it's great. I mean, there's so many good scenes. The whole movie is just fun to watch. It's visually really good, especially for its time. Oh, I forgot to talk about, like, the Randy Newman songs. I mean, they're iconic, obviously. I mean, Randy Newman, he gets a lot of shit for just, like, singing exactly what's happening, which is, like, basically what these songs in this movie are. Exactly that, but, like, they're good. Like, you know, iconic, You Got a Friend in Me, Strange Things, and all the other ones. You the flying song or whatever. All of that's like really good, super iconic. But the soundtrack too, that's like beyond that, is just a great score overall. Very complimentary to everything else in the movie. So I mean, really, at the end of the day, the movie has everything. It's got good pacing, it's got good visuals, it's got good music, it's got good songs, it's got good characters and good world building, even good twists and turns in a couple places, and um morals and friendship and all of that, and suspense and iconic like chase scene at the end there. um it's just super like memorable and iconic and just like really well done, um and nostalgic at the end of all of that. That's not even like the reason that I love it as much as I do. It's just a great movie and it still holds up um overall. Now, I mean, do I maybe prefer some of the other Pixar movies over it? Yeah, but that doesn't diminish the impact and what it means to me, and um how it changed me and changed my life as a whole, even just because of the legacy that it left. There's a reason they're making a Toy Story 5. A, for money, but B, because these movies are so great and they think they can recapture that magic somehow, which I don't think they can, but it's a piece of my childhood that was there from a simpler time when we used VHSs in the 90s. I think I've told the story before, but I still, because I had my VHS copies of the first two movies over at my dad's house, and that's where they're still at. They're still sitting there in his cabinet, from years and years ago, that I left them there one time. So now my kid siblings have them, even though they don't have like VHS or whatever to like probably play these things. Like, not that well, actually I do upstairs. Yeah, that's fair. I have like a TV that has it built in or whatever. Anyways, so yeah, iconic. So good. Um, I mean, I I would be, stupid to give it anything less than a 10, at this point. And I know, it's so surprising. Emily's gonna give her, Toy Story a 10. It's this 90s movie. But it's like, yeah, no, it's really good, though, Like, it's probably gonna be hard to give, like, a lot of Pixar movies not a 10. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of them are really good. Pixar is, like, one of my favorite studios because they just keep making such good and emotional movies, and it all started here, and that's what it all comes back to. I mean, it's simply a great movie that started a legacy that just still holds up, and I think it always will, and it's just a piece of history. So until next time, when we review A Bug's Life, I've been Emily, your coven leader, and never forget that magic comes from the heart, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Emily, out.